In this video, we're going to talk about the cemetery cycle, where we left off before. We created a new FTM wallet, but we had FTM in it. Now we want to create LP so that we can stake that in the cemetery. So on TOMB Finance, let's go to the cemetery. Let's go to the TOMB-FTM LP. We're going to click view on that. Now from here, in the future, we will be able to zap and create our LP like that. For now, we have to get our liquidity or get our LP from Spooky. So if we follow this link right here, provide liquidity for TOMB-FTM pair now on Spooky Swap. Click on that button. It's going to bring you right to the liquidity screen. The problem with this is where we left off in the last video, all we had was Phantom. We don't have any TOMB to make that. So we just have to do a swap real quick. You're going to come over and hit the swap button over here. And we're going to take our FTM, but we're going to make it TOMB. So we're going to do this. And we're just going to come right back, hit TOMB. You can add that to the wallet too if you haven't already. So now, very important, you don't ever want to do max when it comes to FTM or when it comes to whatever chain you're on that uses that particular asset for gas. You don't ever want to do that. In this situation, we wouldn't do that anyway because we want to provide liquidity that's going to be split 50-50 with TOMB. But we're going to use that 50% FTM to make the LP. So to get a gauge on what you have, click on 50 and then just reduce it ever so slightly. 50.42, no problem. So we're going to make it 50. Now what we're telling the exchange to do is sell 50 FTM and buy TOMB. And we're going to buy TOMB 47.58 TOMB. So we're going to swap this. If it's your very first time, you're going to need to approve all of those assets if you've never used them before on the exchange, and that's okay. It's no big deal. This is going to go over here. It's going to get into the transaction. Once the transaction is fully complete, you'll actually see this populate with the TOMB, and you can see that right there. Very quick, very fast. So now we have FTM and we have TOMB. We can go back to the liquidity tab over here, and as you can see, it's already populated, 51 and 47. Now we want to max our TOMB, not our FTM. So we're going to max our TOMB. We're going to use all the TOMB that we have, and then we're going to be able to only use 49.9 FTM, which gives us a little bit left over for gas. In this situation, we have to approve TOMB. So come back over here. You want to give permission, access to TOMB. Yes, so you're going to confirm that. These are generally very quick. You'll notice once it goes away, if you do see it populate like this again, just give it a second. There you go. It's gone. And we're going to click on supply. What we're doing is we're creating the LP. And that LP, we're going to go back to the cemetery and we're going to provide that LP. Once we provide the LP and we wait long enough, then we can start to claim the rewards. So we're going to let all that stuff happen in the background. You can see it's over there. We're going to go back over to TOMB and we're going to be in the cemetery. So what we want to do in the cemetery here is that we want to be able to add TOMB-FTM LP. Now we already have just a tiny little bit in here just due to some testing purposes, but don't worry about any of that. When you click on the plus sign, you will see your LP. So right now we don't see it yet, so it hasn't finished the LP process. So we'll wait for this to populate. Once it populates, if you need to do a refresh, you could just click on reload on there. It's no big deal. Click it again, and now you can see 33.25. This is the LP that we just made. We're going to max our LP, and then we're going to confirm it. And then again, we're going to have to go over here on the MetaMask, and we're going to have to confirm that as well. Now, the idea here is this is more or less step one. It's going to be slightly reversed once you have TOMB rewards as opposed to only having single FTM. So over here, stake 33 is in. So we just want to make sure that it populates over here. Again, just a quick reload, and we'll see when it starts to go up. It does take a few seconds. It's not that big of a deal. Just don't rush the process, right? Just allow everything to happen. It's okay. It just happened right there as we were talking about it. Now we have our LP. So this is essentially step one of the process. Make the LP, provide liquidity over on TOMB-FTM LP. Eventually, we're going to start to get rewards over here. And you're not going to notice the rewards until you're at least 0.0001, right? You have to at least have that. You may have some other digits over here that are slowly working their way in. Give it some time. It'll eventually go up. Once it goes up, you know that you have at least 0.001, and then you can claim. There's no lock when it comes to TOMB-FTM LP. You can claim this whenever you want. It doesn't reset any timers. Everything's okay with that. But to move along in the process, what we would do here is we would claim our rewards from the TOMB-FTM LP. Once we've done that, we head over to the Masonry. Now, while we're in the Masonry, what we want to do is stake the rewards that we just got from the cemetery. When we stake the rewards into the cemetery, it's going to create TOMB. Now, this is where it gets slightly different from the first part. Where the first part we created LP with FTM. In the last part, we're going to create LP with TOMB. So what we do in this situation here is once we've generated enough TOMB, we're going to claim that reward. When we've claimed that reward, then we head back to Spooky and we say, okay, well now I have all this TOMB and what I want is FTM. So we go back to swap and then we're going to go TOMB to FTM. Now at that point, you can do your 50% TOMB. Right, get your FTM, and then again, you're going to come back over to liquidity, and you're going to build that LP. Once you build that LP, you're going to go back over to TOMB, back over to the cemetery, back to the TOMB-FTM LP, and then you're going to put it in and provide liquidity. So the way the circle works, once you've already done it once, is like this. You come on to TOMB Finance, you claim your TSHARE. Right? Once you've claimed your TSHARE, you go over to the Masonry and claim your TOMB. Once you've claimed your TOMB, you go on over and you stake the TSHARE that you just claimed from the cemetery. Right? And then that will work in the background to create more TOMB. Get that TOMB, and then you're going to make more LP, go back to the cemetery, and stake that more LP that you just made. And thus the cycle continues. That is the cemetery cycle. That's the way you can use the protocol, the way it's supposed to be used, in a way to provide liquidity, earn TSHARE, stake the TSHARE, earn TOMB, use that TOMB to provide more liquidity, and thus the cemetery cycle. All right, now there is one caveat that I do want to mention here, and it involves the Masonry and the timeout lock periods. What happens every time you interact with this contract, either claim reward or stake TSHARE, you'll get a new timer. You'll get 36 hours locked on your TSHARE, which is 6 epochs. Each epoch is 6 hours. And then you will have an 18-hour lock to claim your TOMB rewards, which will be 3 epochs. All right, now again, back to the cemetery, there's no locks on here. So what some people do is they may claim once, twice, 3 times a day. They may claim every hour. They may claim whenever they want. But the thing about that is you're not pushing that into the Masonry really until you're ready to claim these rewards. So minimum 18 hours. Right, and then you claim your TOMB, and then you stake the TSHARE that you just got from the cemetery, and then you use that TOMB to provide more liquidity over here. All right, and that will wrap it up for the cemetery cycle. Again, this is sort of a beginner's guide from when you very first start. If you start with just FTM, you'll have to go through that first process, and then every other time after that, you'll be using TOMB instead of using FTM to create that LP. That will wrap it up. We will see you on the next video.